Only the survivor will see the daylight. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
I mean, I guess that's true, but it doesn't do vampires any good if they survive.
Also, I don't think anybody survived in this movie, so...
Yeah.
Even if they did, spoiler, it's not the person that can go in the daylight, so...
I hope they all died.
This is episode 274 of I Hope You Suffer.
Sure.
I think. I am bank guard.
I don't have it pulled up. I don't have a good name. I haven't done this in so long.
There are three.
The pressure's on.
There are three people in this movie just named Wolv. Wolve.
Yeah.
I'm Fang.
I'll be Jerome.
I could have just said like any dumb thing, and it probably would have been
somebody.
right.
Somebody's just named Vampire Clan.
Vampire Clan. Yeah, they're the whole Vampire Clan. Bernardo doing the most.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, there's someone named Lou Guru.
Yeah, that's like the main
wolf
werewolf
guy.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions and concerns about this movie.
So we are talking about 2006's Bloodz versus Wolvez, with Z's at the end, so you know it's cool.
So many Z's.
Yeah. This is bad. This is real bad.
Yeah.
I will say I think the premise and like the sort of social commentary idea in this movie is interesting. Where it's like you have, you know, the upper class vampires and like what are supposed to be like the lower class werewolves and like this struggle or whatever. Like I think there's an interesting idea there, just so badly executed.
So boring.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's boring, but it's also like there was a scene that I counted all of the cuts because there was just two people, or no, one person just giving a speech to somebody, and it's like a 50-second speech, and there were 38 cuts in the fucking thing, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Incredible.
The fight scenes too, quote unquote, are literally just somebody with the camera like zooming in and out constantly and cuts and angles, and I was like, what?
So
what?
This movie,
that's cinema.
This movie did the same thing that I complained about, and Katie and I just recorded a bonus episode on Ashley Hayes Wright's terrible exorcism movie, where the entire thing is shot so no one is ever having a conversation in the same shot together. It just goes from actor to actor.
Like all close-ups.
Yes, and everything is literally shoulder to like top of their head. And this entire movie is like that. We're like, I get it. It's probably faster than having like all of your actors learn all of their dialogue and like being able to do it or whatever.
Standing together, redoing the scenes. Yeah,
I do get that it's like a time saver for like really low budget movies and stuff like that.
And bad actors.
Yeah, but it's just like God, like you cut, especially when they're like in like an actual heated argument. You just like it's almost like seizure inducing how much they cut in this fucking movie, like back and forth. There's a scene where like the wolves are like robbing a bank, but as they're robbing the bank, you don't see any people because there are no people there. It's literally just the bank robbers, close-ups on their face and like the top of their guns, yelling, "Everybody get on the floor!" It's just like cuts also, any sort of like ideas of like tension or whatever happening in it completely.
Well, it's also like. They filmed this in like a hotel, it seems like, because the club that they have in it is just like a community, like a rec center or whatever. The bank robbing scene is like very strange because it's obviously just like a random, because like they fight like the one guard guy with their guns, and they're like, give us the money, whatever. And then they go to like steal the money, and there's a guy coming out of the bathroom, and he's just like, oh shit. And then they're like, rawr, and they're like shooting him, but it's like very obviously just like an apartment bathroom. So it's like one of those movies where they just use like whatever abandoned building that they had, which is like fine, but like for scenes like that, it was like,
yeah,
with rich vampires, like,
yes,
it's
immersion breaking.
Again, it's one of those things where like I've talked about other sort of like extremely low budget ones we've covered, where I'm like, I can suspend my disbelief into believing that like this hotel lobby you were allowed to shoot in is their home base or fucking whatever. But like, I don't know. I think a lot of it came down for me is just like how erratic the camera work in this is. Where it's like, it just seems like I think it's just the director with like a handheld camcorder, and like there's scenes where he's just like jostling all over the place, back and forth, and I was just like, this is hard to watch, and it's making me feel like nauseous and takes me out of it completely, to the point where like I think the climax of the movie where they're having like the fight between like the two like leaders or whatever, I just fast forwarded through it. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I just like got to like the last like 3 minutes and was just like, all right, they both died.
So the synopsis of this movie says, in case you couldn't figure it out, the Bloodz, which are vampires, and the Wolves, which are werewolves. It took
crazy.
I was having such a hard time figuring out for the first like half of this movie who was a vampire and who was a werewolf, because they do the same things. Like
there's no differentiation really.
Well, but there's also like, I think at least based on the poster art, it's like, you know, very clearly trying to do like the Bloodz, you know, they're wearing red for obvious reasons. But there's a werewolf in this movie that I swear to God is decked out in red the entire movie.
Yeah, the guy on the cover, I don't know that these are the right actors or whatever, but the guy on the cover wearing like this red bandana, he was a werewolf. His name, I wrote down some of their names, that all of the names were like very, I don't know what, no. I don't know what Asaman is supposed to be, but yeah, Loop Guru is like the main guy, and then they all had names like Cujo, Rex, stuff like that for the werewolves, and so that's how I knew. That's how I began to ascertain who was like the werewolves, because there's like also like two different groups of vampires that aren't. Maybe they're supposed to be different gangs. I have no idea. There's like that one group that's led by that one girl in the very beginning, and then there's like Vampira, who is like the girl with the braces and like the red hair. And so I was like, wait, are they like who? What's going on here? Because they all hiss. Sometimes the werewolves would bark.
But the werewolf, like the I think the biggest problem with this movie is that like there's no transformations. Everyone just has like on both sides just have sharp teeth, and like it makes it so unless they're explicitly saying what they are in any sort of group scene, I'm like, I don't know who the fuck is who in this movie, because there's different like nothing like placing them apart, because even like their supposed like colors are like not correct, or
they're not
anything. It's so I don't know, not even giving them like hair, like extra hair on like their arms or faces or something. For like,
they get long nails at one point. That's it.
Because every scene that they're supposed to be like transformed in, you just see them in the morning like waking up all like groggy and shit. You're just like, oh my god damn it, man! Like, if you have the idea for this movie, like, I don't know, spend some more time trying to get money to like actually make it.
Well, let's get into it.
We're done.
I mean, kind of like what you said, like, I kind of liked the overall premise. I actually thought, like, the head werewolf guy was, like, fine as an actor. Like,
yeah, some of the acting's alright.
Yeah, compared to some of the stuff we've seen, I was like shocked at how like normal most of the people were. So
I think there's scenes between like when like the head vampire and head werewolf are like arguing about like, because like the head vampire's entire thing is he's trying to like end this, you know, centuries old war between like the vampires and the werewolves, and like there's scenes where like they're arguing about like, you know, which would be better, them just being at war forever or ending it or whatever, that are like fine. Like they're like, those two are like totally passable as these like blatantly not, you know, professional actors doing this movie. But like the editing just makes them so fucking like stiff and terrible, because it's like, again, it's that shit where like it feels like, because they didn't have time for anyone to actually learn lines, they're like, they'll say a line and it cuts, and then they cut back. Like, it's just line by line cuts, and it just gets hard to watch. We should have watched Bravengers, Age of Voltron.
Oh, Bodark was one of them. I was like, Bodark?
I mean, that's a normal name.
Yeah, definitely.
It's my given,
okay.
my birth name.
Okay, so at least the movie starts right away with the title, which is, you know, just like Times New Roman, Bloodz versus werewolves on the scene.
Oh yeah, I forgot every time that like any sort of like, it would be like downtown, uptown, or like whatever on the screen. I was like, God, this font is terrible.
Yeah, so it's literally, this opening is like very confusing because it's just like shots of some random city, and we're seeing like some dudes like standing on the street hissing, and so that's why at this point I'm not really sure like who it was. It ends up that it was like one of the werewolves. So the difference is that like the vampires usually have fangs on the top, and then in the werewolves have fangs on the bottom in this, but they don't always have fangs either, so it's like confusing.
So stupid.
Like the first time you see Jamila or whatever her name is, Ozyman's like wife, she has like the hugest, fakest fangs in her mouth, and then she never has the fangs again, and I was like, huh? Okay.
Perfect.
Goddamn bottom fangs.
And it's just kind of, I guess, supposed... Also, there's some kind of, like, song going on that I think is supposed to be teaching us about the lore between the feud.
It's so weird.
You can't really, like, make out what he's saying. Like, it's not...
It's very quiet.
Correctly, yeah.
Yeah. And also, like... I don't know if it's, like, spoken word or what, but it's, like, all over the place. Just like not in time with the music at all, but he's not like speaking normally, like he's telling you a story. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's strange. Then they show a woman who is snorting powdered blood, as you do.
That's pretty good. Pretty good joke.
Bodark, who is the second in command of the werewolves, leans out from behind it.
That name.
Why?
Because
that's his name.
It's a terrible name.
That's his name. So he.
That's so Bodark.
That's his name.
That is an awful name.
He like leans out from behind a tree and goes, and I'm like, all right. At one point, he was going like and like barking. I was like, sir.
Okay, hold on a second. Is Bodark named after a Ghost Recon character?
A what?
Ghost Recon character?
Maybe.
I hope so.
I looked up.
So.
I looked up Bodark, and the first thing in the Google search is a Ghost Recon wiki, and it's like a wolf-looking character. Like I don't know.
I mean, all of them are named after like either stereotypes of thing, like dogs. Like someone's name is Rex. Rex used to be like a really common name for a dog, right?
Okay. So
Cujo.
In Russia, there are two types of werewolves: the Walkalak and the Bodark.
Okay.
Huh.
I've never heard
of a Bodark.
Bodark
Chooses to become a werewolf.
Oh,
and can change whenever he wants to, and the other one is a curse.
Okay, I love that.
I'm bumping this movie up half a star because I learned something from it.
Who would know that from this?
Well,
I'm very impressed. Bloodz versus Wolves, pulling out fucking Russian werewolf lore.
I know. I'm a little embarrassed that I didn't know that, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
you gotta step your wolf girl game.
Jeez. I know.
Embarrassing.
Okay. Bodark is snarling behind a tree.
What a line.
Yeah, this is where I wrote, someone is singing about the lore, but you can't really make out what he's saying. There's a standoff in a basement that's really small. It's like some of the werewolves come in like one door, and the vampires come in the other door, and one of the guys is literally so tall his head is almost touching the ceiling, and then they start shooting at each other, and I was like, couldn't get a bigger space. I don't know. Okay. So there's two locations of this movie, uptown and downtown, okay? We're uptown.
As you can see by the font on the screen that takes up the entire lower half of the screen.
Yes, uptown. There is two men that are meeting, like, in a dark, like, a really dark, like, property that basically, like, one of them is, like, a realtor, and he's like, oh, yeah, this area is great, and the other guy's like, I don't know, it looks real shady in here, there's like cracks in the ceiling, it looks like shit, and the guy's like, oh yeah, we're renovating, like, don't worry, in 2 weeks everything here will be really nice. And essentially, like, the vampires part of it is that they're like gentrifying the area because they're buying, like, uptown is supposed to be the werewolves territory and downtown is the vampires, I think, or
I think it should be vice versa, probably.
It should be, but this building that the vampires are buying and trying to renovate and sell is where the werewolves live. So my understanding of any time I was not completely zoned out watching this, like,
a very small percentage of the movie.
The vampire is buying up all of the property, but then, like, to help stop this war and, like, show, like, you know, grace or whatever to the werewolves, he's at one point he gives them, like, an entire fucking business that he bought there or whatever, like,
yeah, that was.
And so, like, I think the idea is that, like, he's uptown but he's buying these buildings downtown, and then he's, like, trying to make them better to, like, raise the werewolves out of the gutter or fucking whatever they're trying to insinuate.
But it said uptown
the
area that the werewolves already live.
That makes no sense.
It doesn't, but the buying of the business and shit and whatever. Well, we'll get to it. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's stupid.
Arguing about like something that doesn't even fucking.
Yeah. Per the lore, Nathan, I've got the book right here. Uptown is where the motherfucking werewolves live.
You had to go to the library to get that 1,000-page Bloodz versus Wolves Bible.
I did. I had to pay $2 per page for them to print it out behind the desk. Okay. I
hope this movie had a lore Bible. That'd be so sick.
I feel like this movie was shot in 36 hours.
My new thing, I don't remember what movie we were covering where I said I was going to write like a fanfic of it. I'm going to just start writing fanfics of all of them. This will be my next one. So basically, like, there's this guy in there, right, to see the building, and he's like, this building is shit. Two of the werewolves bust in and is like, what are you doing here? This is our property. And the guy's like, no, like, I'm going to sell this. Like, you need to get out of here. I will call the police. And they're just like, fuck you, guy. And they kill him. Never mind. They don't kill him immediately. It's like the two guys come in and they're just like, this is our property. Like, we live here. You can't be here. And the guy's like, I'll call the police. I have permits to sell this building, and, like, you're not actually supposed to be here. And then they argue a little bit, and the guys are like, fine, okay, like, calm down or whatever. And then one of them throws holy water on the, like, real estate agent, and then he's like, and he's, like, sizzling because he's a vampire, and then the other one goes, wolves!
This movie starts off kind of hard, where I was like, okay, like, this looks like shit, but maybe this will be interesting. You have this, and then it's immediately followed up with, like, the vampires, like, I don't know, pretending to, like, be sex workers to, like, kidnap that werewolf and kill him. or a guy that maybe is not a werewolf. I'm not totally
We don't
sure,
know.
but like I was like, okay, like they're like attempting something here, and then it just becomes real fucking boring.
Yeah, and then it's like an hour of
Economic
like politics.
talk.
Yeah, literally businessmen type
But
stuff.
just people with big ass teeth.
Yes. So now we're downtown. There's a guy who follows a girl who says her name is Jezebel into a building, and he's like, they're kind of like flirting with each other. She's like touching his face or whatever, and then he goes, "Hey, do you want to come back to my place?" And she goes, "Hell no." I said, "Hell no," like immediately. He doesn't resist her or he doesn't do anything. She just says it immediately. Then she punches him out, and I was like, oh. Again, I can't really tell who she was, if she was a vampire or a werewolf.
I believe
at this point,
this is like the like I said, this is the
but he wakes up and he's got a collar and a leash around his neck, so either he is a werewolf or they at least think he is one.
Yeah, that was the thing I couldn't understand. Is I was like, because again, it's not like they show anyone transform, but like up until the point that they kill him, he keeps saying he's just like a dude or whatever.
He's like, yeah, I don't know like what you're fucking talking about. Like, can you fuck off? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, whatever. And then there's like a group of people in there just like being mean to him and yelling at him and stuff. And then they just like all shoot him together. There's like 5 of them just like shooting him.
Very good CGI gunshots.
This is where we meet who I think is named Jamila. And she's the one that has like the huge vampire fangs in at this point. And she's talking about how they're having company over and they've gotten rid of everything in the apartment, all of the furniture and all of the tables and stuff. Like, this is their way of kind of trying to explain why they don't have like any set. Like, even the werewolves live in like a dilapidated building and the only thing that's in it is a fridge, and they just like sleep on the floor. So like they go one place that has like furniture at all, and it's a bar. So like they're just like, oh, huh. So it's like Jamila and one of their butlers like laughing about how they've removed everything from the apartment so that supposedly the werewolf's scent won't get on all the stuff. And then she's like, ha ha ha. And then they laugh about how the only thing that they're serving their guests are olives on toothpicks. And I was like, that'll really make them mad.
Haha, fools.
Literally.
This is what the whole war's been over the entire time.
Fucking olives.
Yeah.
Green olives with pimento inside. Delicious.
There's an olive shortage. So just keep
That's
using
how you know
them all
they're
like
rich.
this.
They've got a platter of olives that they can't even eat because they're vampires.
It's not caviar. It's just like green olives from Kroger.
Literally,
Yeah.
that's what it is. So the dudes, like I said, it took me half this movie to figure out who was who, but now I know the dudes who come in are the werewolves, and then the group of vampires come in from the other side, and they basically take turns dissing each other, where this is what we were talking about before we started recording, where like the vampires of course are making fun of the werewolves for being dogs and like peeing on stuff, and then one of them says like, "I'll pee on your little ass" or something like that, and I was like, oh, that sounds like an invitation. And then the werewolves make fun of the vampires because apparently in the Bloodz versus Werewolves universe they cannot have sex, which that seems, yeah, well,
fuck that.
So this is where we're starting to meet distinguish some of the characters. Loop Guru is, and then like a Rougarou, like that documentary we watched with werewolves. He's the leader of the wolves, and then we meet Asaman, who is like the leader of the vampires. So he comes up and he's like, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, like these, he's like being like, I'm sorry that the vampires are treating you this way, like you guys are our guests, like sorry about that, like can I get you anything? And Guru says, you can get me the fucking point of me coming down here. And I laughed so hard. Like that was good. That was a good line. I'm gonna use that.
And when
whenever I'm mad at someone and they ask me if they can get me anything. It's such a universal situation. So then somebody at some point says, "I'm a werewolf, bitch." Also loved that. Asaman is like, this is where Asaman is talking about how, like, the reason that they're fighting in this specific situation is that the werewolves are like, hey, like, why are you, we killed one of your vampire guys at our building, like, our property, we live there, like, what are you doing? And he's basically talking about how the city is buying these, like, dilapidated buildings, and then he's buying them from the city because he wants to, but they're in the werewolf territory or whatever. And he's like, so it's, like, perfectly legal for me to be doing that. And Guru is essentially just like, I don't fucking care about I don't care about business. I don't care about, he says, like, I don't care about judges, and I don't care about the police, like, whatever. He's like, I don't care if, like, what you're doing is legal. This is our territory, and you shouldn't be, like, encroaching on it or whatever. And he's basically just saying, Asaman is like, we've been fighting for centuries, like, let's just stop fighting. How about it?
Seems reasonable.
Right, and Guru is like, okay, he's like, don't you want, like, a better life for you and your pack? And he's like, yeah, I do. In order for me to sign this truce with you, I want real jobs for all of my people, which is why he gives him the nightclub later. And we want properties to live in, real houses to live in, but we don't want to pay rent. And I was like,
fair.
Okay.
Same.
And so basically that's, like, what he wants in exchange for a truce. And so they're like, all right, fine, great, sounds good. They shake on it. Then Guru does fight the servant over the olives, so that shows me what I know. So the wolves all leave. Asaman basically, like, reprimands his group of vampires, being like, we're having a truce with them, so stop being dickheads, and, like, let's just, like, figure this shit out or whatever. We have to follow the truce, so, like, do it or whatever. Okay, very weird scene of Guru buying a suit and then getting this guy to come into his dilapidated building to teach him about etiquette. And Guru freaks out because the guy brought his Nana's silverware or something, and he's like, didn't I tell you on the phone that I don't want you to bring silver? And he's, like, freaking out about it, and the guy's just like, well, yeah, you did tell me, but he's like, I don't know, he's, like, yelling at him. He's like, you know what, it's fine, tell me about silverware. So then the etiquette guy starts talking to him about like, different kinds of vegetables. I was like, okay, sure. This is when Bodark comes in, and he is mad that he's basically, like, mad about the entire thing. Like, he's mad that Guru is, like, wanting, in his mind, he's saying that, like, we're not humans, like, why are you trying to act like you're a human or whatever by, like, wearing a suit and taking these, like, etiquette courses or whatever. And he's like, we're gonna have real jobs, so we have to, like, learn how to act normal or whatever. And Bodark is, like, pissed about it, and he's like, you didn't, like, ask anybody if this is okay, like, I'm not about it. And then he, like, storms out or whatever after killing the etiquette guy.
What an incredible special effects sequence where just, like, he lightly fingers out, like, jabs this man in the stomach, and, like, a piece of raw meat just teleports into his hand.
Yep. He just, like, reaches into the guy's shirt and, like, pulls out intestines.
Yeah. It's like a raw sausage, like, it's your guts.
He was gonna eat that later.
Yum. They might as well. Yeah, because we also find out that in this world, both vampires, like, the vampires don't feed off of humans anymore. They're like, so rich that they just, like, buy blood, but the wolves eat people for sustenance. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Somebody ate his wife and daughter, from what I remember.
Two of the vampires... Oh, so while they're inside having this argument over, like, etiquette classes and escarole and whatnot, there's, like, two vampire assassins outside putting on gloves and masks and shit, and they come in shooting. This is a scene I was talking about where, like, the camera's just zooming in and out constantly, and it's, like, cutting, and the scene goes on for so long. And essentially what happens is that Guru's totally fine. One of the other guys is dead. and or some of them are shot. I don't know. Who knows? This is when Jamila meets with Vampira. Vampira, of course, was one of the assassins, and you could recognize her because she's the only one with like red hair highlights in this movie. So it's pretty obvious that it was her and the butler or whatever. And this is where we find out that they are secretly a couple, and they are going behind Asuman's back because they hate the werewolves and they don't want to have a truce. And so they basically are like going behind his back and like killing the wolves to make him mad, essentially. And this is when Jamila randomly says that she's a princess and she's just like using Asuman to have wealth and power or something. Sure. I don't know. Asuman is showing... Okay. This made me laugh so hard because this is the Wolves' retaliation for the vampire coming in and shooting one of their guys. Asuman is showing one of the abandoned properties to a group of investors, and the wolves have snuck in and put a rat and cockroaches in the building. And the investors are very scared, and they're like, ooh, disgusting, gross, and they leave. And Asuman is like, this is like literally an abandoned building, so there's gonna be bugs in it.
Yeah, probably gonna be critters.
And like that's why you invest in it, and then people clean it up or whatever. And so the wolves are like watching this from across the street, and they're just like giggling over this rat situation. And I'm like, okay,
rats,
literally. So Asuman is like pissed off about it, and he thinks that like whichever of the vampires he told to like clean out the building didn't do it or whatever. And Jamila's like, oh, how do you know it wasn't the wolves? Which is like funny because it literally actually was the wolves. And he's just basically just like, why don't you find something else to do, woman? And I was like, oh, I don't think so. Don't be talking to her like that.
You don't understand vampire hierarchy.
I was literally, when I was watching this, because she's saying that she's like a princess. You find out later that she's the one that turned him into a vampire and like saved him from like a life of slavery or something. And then, so she's just like using him for like wealth and power or whatever, but she's like royalty, I guess. And then I was like, that's why when I was like watching this and he was like, you better find something else to do, and he's like threatening her, I was like, there's literally no way I could be a vampire if I would have to deal with this kind of like politics and like having to just like obey this man because he's like, argh. I'd be like, I don't think so. She should have just killed him, to be honest.
This whole movie could have been solved very easily if like just one person on each side just killed their leaders, and we're like, all right, let's
let's just fuck off now.
Let's just figure this shit out. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
I think this movie is really just a movie about people. One guy being mad he's bald and taking it out on one guy with like very long dreadlocks.
Right.
All just hair envy.
Yeah, I get it. As a bald man myself, I get it.
Okay, Asuman calls Guru and it's basically just like, hey, why are you messing with me? And Guru's like, I'm not messing with you. You're messing with me.
Every time you say his name, I think you're saying Gru, and I just keep thinking we're talking about minions.
We are.
Imagine if this movie had minions.
Just one.
One minion.
Like they have that one thing that's like a make a movie all Muppets except one human character. Just do that with minions.
And essentially just like
it's just all minions and the one leader of the vampires is a human.
This is like literally the whole movie is just okay, the people are doing construction right now. It is Sunday at 4. It's almost 5 p.m. and they just showed up to construction on this house, and they are yelling at each other. And I don't know what else is I'm so confused about what's going on over there. Sorry. They're being very loud.
Is the Joker car all right?
Yeah, that's on the other side of our house.
Then I don't care.
So we're fine.
Oh, okay. All that matters. I
don't think you guys can hear them, but it is so loud. I'm gonna open the window and be like, excuse me, I'm trying to talk about Bloodz versus Wolvez with my friends. I need you to shut up. Drink your Bud Light somewhere else, okay? What was happening? They're fighting. Yeah, okay, this movie essentially is just, like, misunderstandings. And if they would have just, like, said, hey, like, I did this because you killed one of my guys, and then he could have been like, I didn't. But he doesn't believe him at this point because it's, it keeps happening or whatever.
Yeah, that's how every movie like this is, though.
Yeah,
like
Guru
even just
is
down to like just like the family stuff and like Romeo and Juliet or whatever. It's always just because like there's a misunderstanding and like neither side acknowledges or will hear the other side on
wants to
figure it out. Guru is like, hey, listen, I don't trust you anymore. Like, the truce is over. Like, you said we were having this truce. You immediately came and shot us up. And so, like, it's not cool. We're not cool anymore. And Asuman is like, please, literally, please, just come talk to me again. Like, we'll figure this out. And he's like, all right, fine. So they meet at this bar. And Asuman admits they have this, like, heart-to-heart for no reason. That's essentially just talking about how both of them have, like, all of these extreme powers, but they have downfalls to them too. And Asuman admits that the wolves are better than the vampires because they are more human-like. They can blend in with humans. They can walk in the daylight and all of that stuff. And he's like, but we can't do that. And then Guru is like, and then he's like, but you guys like don't have your shit together like as a group. So now they're blasting music. Perfect.
I mean, I can't hear anything, so
yeah.
Okay, it's just distracting to me because I can hear it.
She's gonna start singing along. I'm gonna be like, what?
It's they're playing the theme song for Bloodz versus Wolves, so it's perfect. Yeah. Get me back.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Have
them join the podcast.
Yeah, come on in here. Tell me what you think
about this. Special guest, Katie's neighbors.
This is where Guru reveals to us that being a werewolf isn't all that great because once you transform into a werewolf, you can't control yourself at all. And he says that he used to try to assimilate to being a human. He even had a wife and a daughter, but then he ate them.
He smoked them.
I'm confused about this because, like, you don't get married and immediately have a child. It takes time. So, like,
not for werewolves.
How do
you don't know?
I'm just culture. Like, it just seems like such a weird. I think it was just like a shock value thing because he was just like, and then I ate them, and I was like, oh, okay. And so basically, they both bond over the fact that they both have shortcomings, but Guru like wants a better life for his pack, and he doesn't want them to be like live in poverty essentially. So, they make it very clear that there's like a wealth imbalance essentially, which is like what you were talking about earlier. So then they seem to kind of like, I don't know, understand each other. But then this like random guy comes up and is just like, oh yeah, I saw you out on the links and you were golfing really well. So like, do you want to come be my golf caddy? And Asuman is like really embarrassed. Guru thinks it's hilarious and is like laughing. And then he's like, you don't know who you're talking to. I own half of this establishment. How dare you ask me to be your assistant and whatever. And then the guy who wants to golf, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, sorry, didn't know. Then he goes into the bathroom and Asuman is like, how dare you? And then he just like kills the golf guy. And they show this by showing that the golf guy's neck is bloody. And then Asuman like spits a bunch of blood out. He does that thing where he just like opens his mouth and blood just like pools out of it. It's like, I was like, don't you need to eat that? Like, just
no.
Well, it's fine. So essentially he goes back out there. Him and Guru like decide that they're going to draw up contracts about the truce. So it's like legal, even though he's like, I don't have lawyers or anything. Like, I don't care about that shit. He's like, just do it, okay? And then it'll be fine. And he's just like, yeah, I mean, I'll do it. I just don't think we're ever going to get along, though. And, and Asuman is crying.
What is happening?
They're yelling at each other.
Yeah, just ignore them.
I'm trying. It's literally right outside the window.
You should go out just to record.
Are they yelling at you?
No.
Go record
Are you sure?
Like right in the middle of their construction area.
I should. I'm so confused about what they're doing with that house too. It looks crazy.
Maybe they're turning
there's
it into
the
a
saw.
Joker house. I hear
Can you
that.
hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the buzzsaw. Bone saw. Okay.
Who works on a Sunday?
That's what I'm saying. It's like almost 5 p.m. and they just showed up on a Sunday. I'm wondering if
Very
maybe
weird.
because like they've had groups of workers over there, obviously, but I wonder if it's like them buying like so they could come whenever they want. They've been let me tell you, they've been so annoying because they show up at like 8 a.m. and they'll start working and they'll only work for like half an hour and then they'll leave and I'm like, well, I'm awake, I guess. Because you're hammering next to my head. It sucks.
What
Anyway.
if they're listeners and they hear this? They're gonna be
I hope so.
real-
That would be
That'd
the
be
weirdest.
incredible. What a twist. Can you imagine?
They're like, hey, I hear myself. They're like listening to it right now somehow. And then they're like, oh, that's us. Okay. The truce is still on, okay? This is where randomly one of the guys squats over a newspaper and poops onto it, like a dog.
A hero.
Bloods versus Wolves versus Minions.
Yeah, I'm making it happen.
All right,
We need
let's
it.
do it.
The strike is over now.
Yeah,
Get someone to write it.
get at me,
This will
Zasloff.
unify the writers. That's right. Oh my god, okay. This is where Asuman invites Guru to what is supposed to be a club. Again, it's just like a reception area in like a hotel with like mirrors all over the walls and like a disco ball thing for some reason. And basically he's like, you're the new owner of this club, but you have to let in humans and you can't eat them.
What's the point?
Damn.
Like,
I don't know.
that seems like the only fun part about being a werewolf.
Being
or
a
vampire.
creature? Yeah, right? Bodark? Okay, so they're at the club and everybody leaves, but for some reason Bodark takes off his shirt and sits down in the middle of the club and starts howling. And then I wrote, oh, they're all
Same.
changed. They're like transforming. Everyone's like gone back to the apartment now, though, except for him, and they're transforming into werewolves, which is just them making a bunch of noises and growing and like putting on press-on claws. Nobody does anything beyond that. Bodark grows the claws and then he hides in a closet so that we don't see him. Then 3 of the vampires come into the club to kill him, and they have fight a little bit. And then Bodark says, "Bodark, wolf for life!" And then he immediately gets shot and dies.
No.
The next morning, all of the werewolves like wake up as if they've had like, they're like, oh man, what happened last night? Because they transformed and did who knows what. There's like random links of sausage all over the floor and whatnot. And Guru sees that Bodark is dead, and he is like, no, Bodark, my best friend, I loved you. He's like, we're going to kill the Bloodz now. This is when they rob a bank to try. They rob the bank to get Asuman's like business funds and security boxes and whatever, which again is probably the least exciting scene in the whole movie for somehow. Asuman finds out that all of their money has been stolen, and he freaks out in the kitchen, and so he like knocks over something. I don't even know what it was, but Jamila is like irate, and she's like, you broke it. What am I supposed to do now? I'm tired of dealing with your mood swings and this, that, and the other thing. And they're like screaming at each other. And he tells her that they were robbed and they have nothing. Like all of their money is gone completely. And she's like, what are you talking about? Don't we have insurance? And then they start talking about like fucking bank insurance and
It only
shit.
covers 100,000 or something.
I was like, okay. And then she's like, and he's like, listen, even if I sold, like I sunk all of my money into developing these properties. We're poor. We don't have anything. And she's just like,
The one thing I took from this movie, get out of the bank, put all my money in gold bars, bury it in the ground.
Yep. Safest bet.
um,
That was a real thing recently, and everyone's like, we need to invest in gold.
Oh no, that's always a real thing.
oh
Like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
InfoWars and shit, pretty much every episode has like gold ads, and fucking all those right-wing dipshits think they have to they can't use any of the banks because they're all owned by George Soros, so you have to literally keep all your money in like, you know, coffee tins and bury it in the backyard. So like if the government raids your house, they can't get to it apparently.
It's also heavy, so odds are they can't even carry it.
Yeah, or you can beat them to death with it.
Real. None of these people have enough money to equate to a gold bar.
No, one of our like family functions, like sort of recently, somebody was telling us like about price of gold's gone up, this, that, and the other thing, and we were just like, imagine having any money to buy gold. That is not even like, remotely something that we need to be worrying about.
Should all put our money in bitcoins. We'd be gold rich by now,
right? We really missed out.
The rich dude on 90 Day Fiance.
We really missed out with the apes.
Yeah.
Could have slapped all kinds of slurp juice on an ape. Then you have 3 of them.
God, what a fucking bad time.
A really weird year.
Pretty bad. Okay, so then the wolves steal... Sorry. You know what? I bet you why this is why my allergies have been so bad, because they're just over there blowing their house dust all over my house and shit. I bet you.
Dust.
Keep your house dust to yourself, okay? The wolves steal a bunch of the blood bags from the vampire's like store and put a bunch of garlic in them. Very smart. Then Asuman holds a dinner with a bunch of the other leaders of the vampire clans to try and get them to invest in the property. And he's pretending that he's not poor. And they're like kind of sus. They're like, I don't really understand like why you would want us to do this unless you're poor. And he's like, no, I'm not poor. This isn't about money. This is about power. And I want us all to share the wealth and this, that, and the other shit. And they're just like, I don't know. We'll think about it. Then they drink the tainted blood. And I guess like some of them die. To me, it just looked like a bunch of people coughing. And
yeah,
but
unclear.
But Asuman says 4 of them died. So I was like, okay. Everybody like leaves or whatever, and one dude tries to tell Asuman that there's a rumor going around that Jamila is the one that's like going against him and like doing all this stuff, but he's just like, shut the fuck up. The guy's like, fine. So he goes to talk to Guru about the fact that the clan leaders have been killed, and he basically is like, I officially declare war. And Guru is like, that's fine. We've literally been at war for like 3,000 years, but okay. And then he's basically just like taunting him, like, how's it feel to be poor like us, blah, blah, blah. This is when Vampira and the rest of the vampires tried to figure out the best way to kill a werewolf. Obviously, it's silver, but there's got to be a better way. They don't know what Wolf's Bane is, so instead they're going to try and hold on to their dicks and chop them off.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like it'd probably kill anybody, but...
Figure out a way to Google this without... to see if it's real.
You gotta hold on real tight, they said, and then chop it off. And all of the dudes are like, I'm not gonna be doing that. I don't want to touch anybody. And then Vampiro was like, I'll do it.
This was the scene I was thinking about earlier before we started recording.
Oh.
They're all talking about holding dicks.
Yeah. I mean, seems normal. Seems like a normal conversation to have when war is coming.
Yeah.
The wolves basically prepare for war, which is, like loading their guns and putting on gigantic crucifixes. One of them calls a store called Religious Paraphernalia to order more crucifixes and says he will pick it up in an hour. That made me laugh. And then all of a sudden it just cuts to them all sleeping. Like literally they're all just sleeping on the floor. And I was like, huh? And this whole scene to me was like very confusing because all of a sudden there's like construction happening and there's like I'm essentially experiencing it right now where there's like drilling and buzzsaws and like dust coming down from the ceiling, and they're all like freaking out, and I was like so confused as to what was happening. They're like, oh yeah, get the weapons, and they're like running down the halls and like fumbling around and shit. Then they come outside and they start yelling because I guess like the people who are coming to finish the construction workers are coming to renovate the building or whatever, but they started doing it in a way that was like I don't know, it makes no sense, because then they're like like yelling at the construction workers and they're like, get out of here, oh, this is our house, this is where we live, and they're like woof, like woof woof woof, like barking at them and stuff. But then like when they show the construction workers, it's just like stock footage of like construction workers and stuff, and I was like, how, I don't really understand what's happening here, but they run away.
So all of these Google things, there's not a single thing about cutting off their dick, but all of them say if you cut off their head. So
sure.
That's what I'm just going to assume they're making a pun on.
Oh, huh.
I'm upset with how many deadly serious articles there are about ways to kill a werewolf.
You never know when it could pop up in your life.
Like people literally being like, wait, do you have one?
Are you dealing with an infestation right now?
Yeah, it happens. Happens to the best of us. We're literally almost done. This, the wolves.
Nothing happens in this movie except economic talk.
Yep.
Yeah,
the
holding on to
wolves
dicks.
attack an empty bar, essentially, that the vampires run or whatever.
Hold on, I found like a blog that's 50 ways to kill a werewolf. Number 3, take the werewolf to a screening of Inception. He will become confused and ask a bunch of questions, prompting other theater patrons to kill him.
That rocks.
Okay,
Tie
sure,
a chicken
right.
bone to a baby. When the werewolf eats the baby, he will choke to death.
I feel like, why wouldn't he choke to death on the baby?
Bones are softer.
Yeah, baby's got soft
the chicken bones.
This is the only good article
Anything
so
else?
far. Yeah, there's 50 of them. I'm just make him roll a critical failure.
Oh damn! Savage.
Replace his beer with a can of molten silver.
Oh, yeah,
Makes
that's
sense.
a classic.
Show him how lame werewolves are on World of Warcraft and give him the address of Blizzard Studios. That'll keep him busy while you save up for a silver baseball bat. Yeah. Take him to Mardi Gras so he gets alcohol poisoning. Seems like a good one.
Okay. I like how
I'm
a lot
glad.
of these are just like not even werewolf specific, like that any of that stuff could kill anybody.
Go back.
Like if you drank a can of molten silver, you will die.
One of them is just go back in time and kill his wolf mom.
Foolproof.
That's the only article with any real solutions.
Yeah. Only one I trust, that's for sure.
All the rest of these are like, stab him with a silver knife. Like, I'm not getting that close to a werewolf. You crazy?
Yeah. Fuck off.
I do, yeah. At least, yeah, they're mostly just using silver, the typical silver bullets in this, which seems like the way to go. I don't know that I could hit a target though, so I'm not really sure what I would do, but I'd be like, can you just make me a werewolf instead of killing me? I'll deal with it.
One night a month doesn't seem that bad.
I mean,
Unless
it's
you're a
probably fine.
Bodark and you can do it on command.
Yeah, I would rather be a Bodark.
I don't know. I feel like I would wolf out constantly the minute anyone in public, like,
Maybe
Mildly
not.
inconveniencing.
just any sort of traffic, anything. I would just be like, fuck it, and go werewolf and get caught very quickly.
Yeah.
And then someone would take me to go see Inception, and I'd ask a bunch of questions, and they'd all kill me.
I'd accidentally roll a 1, be fucked.
Yeah. Ah!
Okay.
The end.
Okay, so the wolves go to this bar and start killing the two people that are there. One of them calls Asuman, is like, the wolves are here, and then Asuman and all of the vampires show up to fight. Vampira stabs some guy in his dick. And when he falls on the when he falls on the floor, he makes dog whimpering noises. It literally says dog whimpering.
I feel like I probably would too.
Then there's like this whole like standoff between Asuman and Guru, but Guru escapes, and then Asuman is like, man, that sucked, and he goes to the bathroom. Vampira is basically just like, okay, I've had enough, like, you should have killed all these wolves a long time ago, and we wouldn't be in this like situation anymore, like none of this stuff would have happened. And she picks up one of the guy's guns and like kills all the henchmen that are still alive, and then she's like trying to shoot at Asuman, but she misses. And she runs out of bullets, and then he just impales her with a plunger. The subtitle literally said stab. I was like, all right. The scene is like very strange too, because he picks up the plunger, and there's like a POV of him like you looking at him and him moving the plunger forward, and then it just cuts to her like dead, but it's just like a very, very like close up of her face, and I was like, all right.
Finally, a close-up on a face in this movie.
Yeah. And, okay, so Asuman finally confronts Jamila, and is basically just... This whole conversation is, like, so weird, because he shows up at the house, and he's like, why are you... Like, he just basically, I think, figured out that she's been, like, going behind his back and orchestrating this, like, war or whatever, and the first thing he says to her is, why are you wearing makeup? And she's like... first of all, she's like not even wearing that much makeup. She's like, I don't know, I just felt like it. He's like, why are you wearing makeup? And that's like what starts this argument. And I'm like, sort of feel like maybe there's more pressing matters, but sure. And she's basically just like, I want to. She basically admits to having the affair with Vampira, and is like, yeah, I was having an affair, and I'm gonna keep having the affair too. And he's like, she's like, because I love to see you suffer and look weak, because you're stupid and I hate you. And he's just like, okay, I guess, bitch, if you keep having an affair, I'm going to keep killing the people, because it's like, it makes me look weak and it makes me look bad or whatever. This is when all of a sudden now she's saying that she's a queen and she's the one that made him and all this stuff. And he was like, well, if you're a queen, I'm the king. And I was like, what are you guys talking about?
Shit, got her.
They basically just argue until he chokes her out and kills her. And this scene made me laugh really hard, because it's like an upshot of him with like his fake fangs going like, and then a down shot of her, and he's like choking her, but he's like jiggling her head, and it just looked so funny. Anyway, she's dead. Then Asuman goes to meet with Guru again, and they kind of are acting like they're normal, and Guru is just like, hey, let's have a truce again. And Asuman is just like, I am sorry, I don't want a truce anymore, let's just fight again. And he's like, okay, so they do. There's like this whole fight. Eventually, Guru and Jesus Christ.
Guru and Jesus Christ?
I must have skipped past a lot.
Yeah. I missed the big ending for this film.
This turned out to be an Ashley Hayes Wright production of...
I would pay anything to watch her remake this movie.
With Jesus.
Literally, I would be like, you have complete creative control, but it has to be vampires versus werewolves. Like, it just
versus Christ.
But do whatever else you want in it. I will give her the probably $800 it would take her to make that movie. Her fucking shitty kids acting as the fucking like the gangs.
The kids are all the Bloodz and the Wolves. Yeah. That'd be so funny.
Kit in the end, the Exorcism movie, her husband puts on old man makeup to play like a pastor that comes in to like, I don't know, get scared by the house, and he does essentially like a insane voice like the grandpa from the Bigfoot movie.
Oh God,
it rocks.
The old man makeup was terrifying. When he showed up, I was like, is that the demon?
I think I have.
Like, he's so scary.
I think I took a screenshot of it. I'll send it in the group
text. Good. Oh my God, he's so scary. Okay, so, so eventually there's like this big fight, and eventually everybody dies, right? Guru and Asuman have a standoff where they basically shoot each other, and Guru is just like, well, guess we're more like human now. Ouch. And then he dies. And then the screen fades to black, and that's the end.
Terrible.
So again, I don't
Cinema.
We see Garou die for sure because he says "ouch." That's how you know he died. Asaman like leans up against the wall, and we don't actually know if he died. So again, if he's alive, he cannot walk in the sunlight.
Just begging for the Blumhouse reboot sequel.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Look at that fucking straw hair coming out. Isn't that terrifying? This is like one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
It's upsetting to see it like, you know, in video form when he's like talking and shit. It's very strange. Because and they also give him a credit as if it's like just another person.
A different person.
Yeah. Like they give him a credit like it's another Wright family member, and I'm like, this is blatantly a dude in like old man makeup, and like no one else will do these movies except you, your husband, and your fucking kids.
I'm
That's
going into
incredible.
the living room because I can't stand that. It was so scary because it's like towards the end of the movie, it's like everything's ramping up, and she's like, I'm gonna call a pastor to come here and like do an exorcism. Then he shows up so nonchalantly, like, and they act as if nothing is amiss, and he just like shows up on the screen, and it was like literally a jump scare. I was like, what the and there he is.
Kit, would you be surprised to find out that the thing that brings them an evil entity in their house was most likely a Harry Potter book? The mom buys a box of quote unquote religious books off Craigslist, and one of them happens to be
a Harry Potter book.
One of them is just only referred to as a witchcraft occult book. And one of the daughters reads it, so we're in like the fucking like my favorite line of the entire movie. She like finds the book in her daughter's room, and she's like, "How long have you been reading this?" The daughter's like, "I don't know, like a while," which like in my head is at least a week. And she goes, "Do you know what this is?" And the daughter goes, "No."
No, what is it?
And I'm like, "So you've been reading this book for a week, but you have no idea what it is."
You don't know what it is.
Incredible, very good movie.
Yeah, so good.
God damn it.
Better honestly. Oh, I don't know. Bloodz vs. Wolves is probably a little better.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah.
Not by much for me, but
no, and it's like, I don't know. At least like the premise of it was interesting, but
all right. Did you find any news in between doing your "Are you gay" test?
No, like the whole thing was literally just about toys that are coming out, and like
Katie had a very good time trying to avoid all of the ads on Bloody Disgusting's fucking website.
Oh my god. Every fucking website's like that now.
It's brutal.
It's the fucking worst.
They're
like, you can't use pop-up blockers because then we don't get any money. Like, motherfucker, your site's unusable with all of the ads you have on it. I have to use your site.
Yeah, it was like that huge thing about I could take a test to find out if I was gay, and then on the bottom there's always like a pop-up trailer or whatever, and so I'm like trying to dodge all of it to see anything, but it was literally just all like Toy-Con stuff or whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, it looks like everything on Macabre Daily right now is either reviews of stuff from Fantastic Fest or just like, you know, here's like Max's Halloween lineup, here's Peacock's Halloween lineup, you know, all that shit.
Here's this movie that came out 10 years ago. Do you remember it? Yeah, I do. Thank you.
I got news that Vinegar Syndrome is putting out a Blu-ray of Rabid Grannies and did not invite us to do the commentary for it.
That's rude.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch it, but I'm offended.
Vinegar Syndrome just going hard on the Troma releases, and I'm kind of here for it because so far it's been all of the good Troma releases. There's literally 3 of them today on their drop: Mother's Day, Bloodsucking Freaks, and Rabid Grannies. Also, Magic Crystal rocks. Go buy that. The movie's very good. All right. Katie, have you watched anything in the last 2 days? 3 days? Whatever the last time we recorded.
No, nope. I finished Are You Afraid of the Dark? I didn't watch anything else.
I am still. I think we're about to hit season 4 of Caitlin watching Futurama pretty much for the first time.
Hell yeah.
Other than that,
About to get through the end of the first good run.
yeah, like I have not seen. I saw the first 2 seasons they did after like they rebooted after the movies.
Yeah.
I think, and I haven't watched. I think they're like season 11 now or something. So I haven't watched anything past that, and I'm excited to get to them because I've generally enjoyed the entire run that I've seen.
Yeah.
I watched Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Pretty good.
Hell yeah.
I think that's it. Most of October, I probably won't have a lot of updates because I'm doing an episode at the end of the month with Chris Matthews again for doing the Unsung Horrors, like Horror Gives Back challenge thing. So most of my watching is just going to be that shit. So you'll get like a long episode of me talking about fucking Amityville Vibrator and 30 other movies. I picked a bunch of stupid shit that I'm sort of not looking forward to watching because I make bad decisions. Kit, what have you watched in the last month?
Literally.
Like nothing. I watched Video Violence, I think, is the only like new thing that I've watched.
How is that? Because I'd been looking at doing one of like I think the sequel for like the sequels category of Horror Gives Back, and I ended up picking something else.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun. I'm gonna watch the sequel. Just like real goofy SOV stuff. But it was entertaining throughout. The gore is really good for it being, like $10 to make.
Yeah. It's been in like I have like a list of all of the movies from one of the Bleeding Skull books that I like slowly am trying to get through, and both of those are on it. And I'm always like, maybe I'll watch these, and I end up picking something else. Because, like, I don't know, for some reason the title and, like, the poster art for them, I always, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's just like a compilation of, like, violent shit for movies for some reason.
Oh, right.
Like, I don't know. I don't know why I have that, like, image in my head. Because I know it's not that.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't, like, small-town video clerks making snuff films.
Hell yeah, I'm in. Alright. Shout outs. Kit. Who do you want to shout out?
I'm in the middle of reading one of the paperbacks from hell called Killer by Peter Tonkin about a killer whale.
Hell yeah.
Sounds stupid. Yeah, it fucking rips so far. Like, breezy 250-page book. The military is like training killer whales to like protect their submarines out near Russia. So like they've been training this whale where if it sees like frogmen swimming around, it just destroys them, and then they piss it off and it escapes, and a plane crashes somewhere in the Arctic and it crashes near where the orca is. So a bunch of people are having to survive on a big sheet of ice against this murderous 30-foot orca.
Honestly, we should take a break from sharks for a while and just start doing like killer whales. We need more killer whales and like octopus and like all that stuff. We need more of those.
Yeah, agreed.
I had you covered last week and made sure that I did your shout out of Blood Incantation and Tomb Mold.
I appreciate
it. There you go.
I was like, Kit's not here because those albums came out and he just ascended to a being of pure light.
Yeah.
Katie, who you want to shout out?
Did you finish the Chuck Tingle book?
I did. It was good. Recommended.
Okay. I have it on my like wish list, so we'll see. Maybe the library will get it.
Yeah, I really like where it wound up going.
What book was it?
Camp Damascus, the Chuck Tingle book.
Yeah, I remember. Okay,
the real Chuck Tingle, like the real book.
The real Tingler.
I was like, what pounded book did you read that I forgot?
Pumpkin spice, pounded in my pumpkin spice. My shout out is the reason I haven't watched anything is that I finally got Sea of Stars, which is like a spoof off of like an old JRPG. It's a video game. And it kind of is, so far I think I'm like 4 or 5 hours in, and the story is kind of like whatever. Like I sort of feel like there's not really like that big of a story yet, but it's supposed to be like a 25 to 30 hour game. So I'm like giving it some time. The gameplay is literally like a dream. It's like so it's like, if anybody ever played like Golden Sun, it's kind of like that, where it's like, it's still like pixel art and everything, but it's like really dynamic like environments, and then there's like puzzle building and platforming like on the screen too, and then the fighting is like turn-based, but it's kind of like Octopath Traveler, where you have like certain weaknesses, and it's like interactive too, because it's turn-based, but you're also like pressing buttons to do charge ups and stuff. And I don't know, it's just like literally everything I love about like RPGs in one. And the music's good, the sceneries are good. Like I said, I don't know about the story just yet, but anyways, I've been like obsessed with it, so
hell yeah,
I recommend.
My shout out is John Zorn and his record label Tzadik, I think, Tzadik. I don't know how to pronounce it. All of that shit is finally on Spotify or just literally any streaming service after like having not been on it for ever, and that's like all I've been listening to. So if you want to go hear weird saxophone noises, weird squonking jazz, go check out John Zorn. There's about fucking 400 albums.
You know what?
Goddamn.
Like, speaking
He's
of
been
that,
like,
you know what I
he releases like 10 albums a year since like the fucking 70s or some shit. It's fucking wild. And it's like not even everything is on there.
Have you listened to Matt Berry's like acid jazz?
I've flipped
stuff?
through some of it. I haven't listened to like the full albums yet though.
I'm like really not into jazz or like vibey stuff like that, but I don't remember what I was like on something and it just started playing and I couldn't like change it right away, and I was like, this actually kind of slaps. It's like very atmospheric for like odd, like fall kind of stuff. It's like very strange, but
well, the thing with John Zorn that I really like is like it's like really varied, where it'll be everything from like, he's got this entire series called Masada that's like just like all of this like incredible like Jewish traditional like jazz music, and then it'll go all the way to like him just playing a bird call underwater for like an hour. Like really weird, like absurd shit, and like he does a lot of like improv stuff with like other musicians, and I don't know. You get like there's an album, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's The Big Gun Down, where it's just him with like all these other musicians doing like interpretations of Ennio Morricone score, and it's fucking incredible. It's so good. Like, I don't know, if you're into like any sort of like either weird jazz or even just like straight up like good modern jazz kind of shit, like I can't recommend John Zorn enough. And then almost everyone else on his label is great. There's like kind of any sort of like I don't know, like avant-garde sort of noise stuff to just straight up, you know, somebody playing like a fucking violin for an entire album and just like beautiful shit like that. I don't know, it's all good. And I don't know, I'm guessing it's a thing where like maybe they broke down because they're like, I don't know, if we get like some streaming money it'll keep us afloat. So go just put it on fucking silent on your phone and play it while you're sleeping. Give them money. Do that to us, even though we don't get any money for streaming.
yeah.
All right, Katie, what we do next week?
Okay, so even though it's my pick, I have 3 movies for you guys to choose what you want to do.
It's like I'm not watching 3 movies.
No. So we have variety here. The first one I think is going to be a no, but I'm going to put it out there anyways. It's called Harlan Manor, and it is from 2021. It's a Tubi original. about ghost hunting. Then we have Vampires: The Turning, which is an American kickboxer in Thailand joins a gang of vampire slayers to rescue his lover from a blood-sucking warlord.
Yes.
That's the second one. That's from 2005.
This poster looks very old for 2005.
Yeah, it looks like it might be legit, but the director only has like 2 other movies, so I'm not really sure. And then the last one is from also 2021. It is called Chompy and the Girls.
I'm in.
And it is a troubled woman meets her father for the first time, and their encounter goes from awkward to alarming when they witness a man swallowing a little girl whole.
I mean, I'm blatantly going with Chompy and the Girls just from this poster.
Right.
This poster is incredible.
Gotta go with Chompy and the Girls.
All right, Chompy. Let's put Vampires: The Turning on the back burner because I'm
interested.
Like there's martial arts involved, and
yeah, kickboxing and vampires. Like,
I feel like. So these are both on Tubi, by the way. I feel like I watched the little trailer for the Vampires one, and it did look older than 2004, 2005. But you know, who knows? I didn't look up anything about it. So
Chompy and the Girls at least has a
pictures.
3.0 rating.
The pictures for Chompy and the Girls are incredible.
The poster art sold me alone.
yeah, I like the idea of a full-grown man eating a little girl whole. So we'll see. All right, Chompy and the Girls. It is on Tubi.
All right, that was not at all a movie title I was expecting.
Nope.
The Vampires one
Sure
checked
wasn't.
out, and the Ghost Hunting Manor one, but
Yeah.
All right. If you would like to support us, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/I Hope You Suffer podcast. Let's see. Right before this episode came out, Katie and I did The Exorcism in Amarillo, which was brutal. So you can listen to us talk about that and why Ashley Hayes Wright needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
And then I think right after this one will come out will be at least Are You Afraid of the Dark? Katie and I watched some episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then we have Mars Attacks. We'll be dropping sometime after this.
Yeah.
Lots of bangers.
Yeah.
Down and around here.
So, $5. Get you all that shit. We have a Patreon shout out that I forgot that I'll just push to next week.
I also forgot, even though I literally wrote it down.
We'll do it at the beginning of the next episode. You can buy merch at our Store Frontier shop. You can leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify. You can follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Kitrification of Blood. You can follow Katie at WerewolfFace and join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can follow me at Gordon Scramsey. Go follow me on Letterboxd. That's the only one I care about. Every other social media is bad. But I don't know. Letterboxd just got bought by some fucking place, so...
venture capitalists.
Yeah, them and Bandcamp getting
nightmare.
bought back to back. It was like my 9/11.
Right? Like, fucking hell. I was getting home from work and I saw both that and I was like, no!
Like, Letterboxd...
I knew this was going to happen to Bandcamp. As soon as Epic bought them, I was like, alright, well, this is going to end fucking horribly.
Letterboxd seems like it'll maybe be okay. Like, I'm hoping not much changes. Like, I saw, like, people were being like, oh, they're going to add DMs, and Letterboxd was like, no, we're not. So that's good, but, like, the one thing I saw is the plate that people at bottom were like, we want to add all the TV shows on it, too. And I'm like, no.
It's not what this is for. Fuck you.
Like, there's already some on there that I could kind of give the pass to because it's, like, shit where it's, like, blatantly kind of a movie that was cut into, like, episodes for something, or, like, I'll give, like, the benefit of a doubt to, like, a 6-episode, like, docu-series or something, but, like, I don't want, like, The Office and fucking whatever on there.
Right.
Like, no thank you. Bandcamp, I don't know. That just seems like it's gonna be bad. I'm not fucking thrilled about
the
it.
group that bought Bandcamp has invested heavily in AI stuff.
Yeah.
And metadata. So just assuming that they're going to be like scraping Bandcamp for a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah. They're also like a song licensing company. So a bunch of people are just like, okay, so like, what happens if they just like decide, well, you put your music on here, so we technically own it now, so we're gonna do whatever we want with it. We're gonna get Toyota commercials with Dungeon Synth. Which honestly, you know, I'd be here for that. You're gonna make me watch a commercial. Put somebody putting a finger down on some keyboard for an hour over it. Yeah, that's all bad. But follow me on Letterboxd while you can.
Yeah. Before it goes up in flames.
Yeah. All right. Something chompy next week. I already forgot the title.
Chompy and the girls.
Yeah, that's right.
Them girls.
Chompy Town.
All right. I hope you don't get your werewolf dick cut off, but why?
Oh, that's a good one. Truly